Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now portrays war not only in terms of physical destruction, but as a deep source of trauma due to a lack of meaning. Although Hegel never wrote about psychological trauma in the modern sense, his philosophy of negativity and alienation offers a powerful framework for understanding the traumatic structure of the film. In Hegel's view, human subjectivity develops through conflict, contradiction, and negation, but trauma emerges when these forms of negation cease to be productive. Apocalypse Now stages precisely this failure. War appears not as a tragic moment within history's rational unfolding, but as a space where the spirit collapses into fragmentation. Careful, spoilers ahead.
This is the end. Beauty.
For Hegel, negativity is the force of change that comes from contradiction. It is how things become something else rather than staying fixed. Conflict is therefore not always destructive. Struggle and negation are part of how individuals and societies grow, but this only works when conflict leads to transformation. In Apocalypse Now, this process fails completely. The Vietnam War is presented as chaotic, arbitrary, and detached from any clear goal. Soldiers fight without knowing why, civilians are annihilated without consequence, and military authority appears empty and theatrical rather than meaningful. The American military presence functions without ethical substance, reduced to spectacle, procedure, and domination. The famous helicopter assault set to Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries exemplifies this collapse. Violence is aestheticized, ritualized, and emptied of rational purpose. From a Hegelian perspective, this is trauma as empty negation, negativity without sublation, destruction that does not serve freedom or self-understanding but only consumes itself. Captain Wheeler's journey upriver reflects the psychological effects of this breakdown. In Hegel's philosophy, a journey through conflict should eventually produce self-knowledge and reconciliation. This is the dialectic movement by which something becomes what it truly is by confronting and transforming its own contradictions into knowledge and improvement. Wheeler's journey does the opposite. Each stop along the river reveals a further erosion of order and meaning. His inner narration does not help him make sense of what he sees. Instead, it shows his growing isolation. He does not learn from experience, he is slowly hollowed out by it. This is trauma's alienation. The self no longer feels at home in the world because consciousness is unable to transform negativity into insight. Colonel Kurtz represents the final stage of this process. Kurtz has rejected all rules, institution, and moral limits. At first glance, he seems powerful and free, but through a Hegelian lens, we realize he rather embodies abstract negativity, the dangerous illusion of freedom without structure. Instead of leading to growth, this type of negativity overwhelms, fragments, and leaves the subject struck. By stepping completely outside ethical life, Kurtz loses the possibility of recognition from others and from himself. His broken speeches and obsession with horror show a mind trapped in endless negation. He understands the violence of war, but cannot turn that understanding into meaning. Coppola's film itself mirrors this Hegelian impasse. Rather than offering historical meaning or moral resolution, Apocalypse Now leaves both protagonist and us viewers suspended in disintegration. Wheeler does not return with wisdom, and the audience is not given a clear moral lesson. The trauma of Apocalypse Now is thus the trauma of encountering a world where negation no longer leads anywhere, where history no longer teaches, and where freedom collapses into madness. Events can no longer be integrated into a shared story about who we are and where we are going. The film presents war as precisely this kind of historical failure. Through Hegel's ideas, Apocalypse Now can be seen as a portrait of trauma not only in individual minds, but in spirit itself, in the shared structures of meaning that allow human life to make sense. The film shows a world in which negativity has lost its transformative power. Violence no longer leads to growth, conflict no longer produces understanding, and suffering cannot be taken up into a shared ethical or historical meaning. What remains is not even tragedy, but a deeper rupture in which experience fails to become knowledge. Coppola's refusal to offer resolution mirrors this condition. Apocalypse Now ends not with insight or progress, but with exhaustion and silence, suggesting that trauma arises when history itself stalls, when the dialectic breaks down and negation no longer opens a path forward, but turns endlessly against itself.
Thank you for watching this video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to keep track of other videos. Don't hesitate to leave a comment or to contact me if you want to know more. See you next time!